You can do whatever you want. This is your balayage.
We're painting our own highlights on. So this is where the real artistry comes in. For a balayage, implements, towels. We have towels. 2 for us to make because we have a towel that we wipe our hands with, and then 2 for her. So 4 towels total. We double drape. We need a tint brush and bowl. We need gloves, paddle brush, detangle brush, a weaving comb, the metal rat tail, H2O bottle is good to have. And then the optional, depending on how you want to do your balayage, we're just gonna do standard open air, is saran wrap and cotton. Strings of cotton. And clips. We can do 4 to 6 depending on what you want to do. I have the hair strands here. We're gonna paint on as a V. We're gonna paint on just one side, and we're gonna make W's. So hair lightener, AKA bleach, for on the scalp is a 1-to-1 ratio. It's closer to 1-to-1 ratio. A balayage is gonna be 1 to 1.5. Highlights is gonna be 1 to 2. A little bit more runny so that when it's packed in the foil that it fully saturates. Now with a balayage, we want the option of, we want to be able to lay the lightener on top so it doesn't saturate all the way through. And if we want to saturate all the way through, we have that option. I put down here, I don't know if you can see it, but this is my cooking analogy. 10 volume is going to be like your slow cooker or like your smoker, where it can sit, and the longer it sits, it can lighten up eventually through time, but it's not gonna burn it when we initially do it, so it's low and slow. 20 volume is like you're cooking in an oven, so you know it has that little bit of time to cook. 30 is gonna be more pan fried, and 40 is gonna be your microwave. With a balayage, typically we go higher on the developer because it's more off the scalp. It's going to be more on the ends of the hair than closer to the scalp, where like if we're in highlights and we're packed in foils and we're closer to the scalp, we want to do more 10 or 20. Maybe even combine them to make a 15. But today we're going to use 20 or 30 because it's Deborah, because we're doing this on Deborah. So yeah, that's what you need for a balayage.
The beauty of balayage. The beauty of balayage is that this is kind of your own custom making. So we're 1 to 1.5. We're nice and pasty like toothpaste or frosting, like frosting on a cake. So we sectioned her into 4. Yeah, it's like a V. And so I lift it up. I see, like, if she were to put her hair up, how is that going to lay? Like, or how is that going to look when it's up in a ponytail? And I'm going to paint the bottom because I want the bottom to be nice and light as well. If I need to tilt her head, I'll tilt her head. Like, lay the lightener on exactly where I want to put it. And so what I like to do, this is me personally. So I take some of my frosting like bleach, I put it on the back of my hand, and instead of like dipping into my bowl, I have some right here on the back of my hand, and then if I need to saturate, I'll put it on the back of my hand. So I use the back of my hand a lot. Some people use a board. I just like to go, I don't want to have too many things in my hand. This is how I was taught to do it, and this is how I like to do it. So I push that all up, and I just start laying it down. And we want it to look really packed in. Like, we don't want it to be, like, if it looks like this, there's not enough lightener on it. So we really want to pack in that lightener. And see how this is so much easier than, like, dipping it and moving my hand a lot. Like, I'm just taking some from the back of my hand, and I lay that down. If I have some, I wipe it off, and that's what this dirty, I call it my dirty towel. It's what my dirty towel is for, so I can wipe my hands. And then I always feather up to the root so it has a nice soft grow out. It's more of an A because we're flipping it upside down. If we're flipping it this way, it's more of a V. And then I'm going to check the other side. So see how there's no lightener on that side. So it shouldn't saturate all the way through. It should just lay right there on top. And if we want it to be more lighter on the tips, because that's usually where we want to be, then I could like saturate this all the way through. I go for all the corners when I have one of these sections. It's like 1, 2, 3, so you can kind of see where it's all broken up. And my brush is like laying right on top. I'm not here with it. I'm packing it on just like that. And then if I see that there's too much packed on, like that's where I'll take a little bit of my comb. You could use, it doesn't matter which comb you use. I just like to use the fine teeth of it, and then I could brush it off. And then that's going to make a nice little highlight right there, just like that. If I think that that's too much, I can comb it off, and it's still laying there nicely on top without it penetrating all the way through, because we don't really want to make spots. We still want to avoid making any tiger stripes. So I want this whole tip to be coated. So now I'm going to put it on the back of my hand where I just had all that lightener. And this is where like your consultation questions would be like, do you want your ends to be more solid blonde? Do you want it more broken up with dimension? Yeah. So I'm going to do my next one. And so I'll take that, like all that excess, and wipe it off with my dirty towel. So every section I go, I wipe my hands. So then when I go into the center, I'm going to add on like a little bit of lightener. Like I'm looking at the shape of this this section, and I see a couple points, and I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to let the section tell me what to do. So I'm going to go up on the sides, make a V. So I don't want to saturate this all the way through. So I'm just going to pack it on just like that. And then I'm going to lift it up to double check. Nope, I got nothing back there. So I'm good. This one's going to be a little saturated, but this one's going to be more dimensional. Like for an example, like a foliage or a highlight, you're specifically picking out those pieces, where here we're specifically laying on the pieces. We're painting the pieces. So I like to, so I'm moving on to this next section here. If there's any little light pieces. So when we're flipping it up and down, like you can see my little quadrant here has some little bleachy spots. So I'm just gonna pinch those off. So I always comb my section before I do it. And so when I saturated this one, ooh, I'll flip her around. When I saturated this one, the section was so thin that it did saturate all the way through. And I'm just going to go with it. We're going to say, that's okay. We're going to be just a little brighter over there. And I could realistically, like, I'm just going to do this for demonstration purposes. I can lay this whole section down. And I know that's just going to lay nicely on top. So that whole section's lightened, and then I can move it around, and I can see that there's some dark underneath, and that's what's going to make that depth. So that I did more of a V here, and then I just did all of it. And then if there's any little excess, little spots, I'm just going to smooth them out with my comb. The diagonal, I'm just going to make a horizontal. So she's more straight across, where the other two were more of a triangle. So we're going to do an M and then a W. Take that frosting, put it on the back. I'm going to lift this up. Her head positions down so we're not breaking her back here. And I'm parallel. And I always start for the middle. I don't want to start right at the root. I'm going to map it out. I go with the corners where I see little corners, little peaks. Mine's like a crazy looking M. So we made that little M area. And then I want this to be nice and saturated on the corners there. So I'm just going to add that. So I made an M and now I'm making a W. And I'm getting her tip really, really saturated. So I'm like going back and forth like you would a highlight. And then, so this is where the cotton or the saran wrap is optional, where you would put that in between so that like a section doesn't lay on top of another section and get it spotty. But I'm just going to lay it like that. And at this point, we just keep going. And so this section's pretty bright. And I saturated it all the way through. So I'm not going to worry too much about the bottom part because I see this here. I'm just going to work right on top here. Because I think about where the sun actually is going to hit. Where she's like, this is kind of like the look of, you know, like little kids when they have like the perfect highlights and you're like, oh, people pay money for your hair. That's like the kind of look that we're going for right now. You know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to go all the way up, but I do want to saturate the tip. So I just lay it on. And then when I just do that, I do make sure that I feather it up. But I'm not going to worry too much about the top. So see how quickly I did that? I just like painted that on. There we go. You can have her head down. So I'm not like low. I have it lifted a little bit because I want this to be flat. And since she was split here, I'm gonna paint that center. And then I want her head position to be down. Now I'm pulling her head back. So I pushed her head down so I can work at the back, and now I'm pulling her head back so I can work on the top section. So yeah, low, pulling her towards my belly button. So I guess it's low 45. And I'm just doing a V on top. So this is kind of more of an M, and now I'm doing a V. And then always wiping, and then I'm doing another V here. Oh, now I'm on the top. Now I'm on the tippy top. Let's see. And this is where the fun goes because it's like you can see where you want her highlights to go or his highlights. For these two sides, I'm just going to paint up on one side and then just cascade it down. Is your lady's lightener getting a little puffy? Mine's getting a little puffy. The lightener works best in the first like 15, 20 minutes.
Lightener bleach?
Yes. Lightener is the gentle, more professional way of explaining it. Because sometimes, you know, like clients don't want to hear, I'm putting bleach on, you know, like lightener sounds a little softer. I'm not going to go too much underneath on the top, but I do want to saturate the tips. That's the back. Oh, and we're getting lighter. Oh, you're getting lighter, non-Deborah.
And my sound cut off for the second half of this video, but that's okay. Similarly to the back, I did diagonal partings as well as horizontal partings and still went and alternated using those triangle method and painting each corner. Balayage is a French technique that means to paint or to sweep. It's a paint on highlighting method that started in the 70s. It came over to America in the 1990s, gained popularity again in 2006, and boomed in the early 2010s. Where other trends like the ombre stemmed from. From there, we hear terms like foliage, balayage, where you can do a balayage of the bowl, but it's all essentially this sun-kissed look, this natural lived-in look. A balayage is supposed to be a subtle difference. It's not supposed to be a drastic change. Now, if you have a natural level 7 or up, it could create a very drastic blonde. But those that are level 6 and below, they want to see that pop, they want to see that subtle change, and that's where the foliage comes in, where you could do the same technique and pack it in foils so you get the hair a little bit lighter. But the whole idea is to create this seamless, natural, sun-kissed highlight, as if you were playing in the ocean all summer long. So as I'm moving up the head, I'm thinking strategically, where is the sun gonna hit? Where is the sun gonna naturally make the hair lighter? Also, where are we gonna naturally have more depth? Where are we gonna leave out the darker parts? Because we need the dark to support the light. On the very top, I go with where the hair's natural movement is. Where are the pieces that are going to be a little bit lighter and where are they going to pop up? And I lay the lightener right there. Even on my non-Deborah. This is not Deborah. This is a non-Deborah, hence her face. As I explained earlier in the video, we could separate these pieces with cotton and lay saran wrap on top. That's just going to keep the lightener from drying out. But in this case, I want this to be a true open air. We're gonna let it dry out so it doesn't get too drastic of a difference. I always check my sections. I don't leave them flat to the head. I pop them out a little bit so that they don't fuse together and create any spotting. And while working in the front, I just do my best to make sure that each quadrants match the best that I can. Now, when it comes to the money piece or the very front pieces, I still pack on a lot because I want it to be really bright. Non-Deborah has a middle part. So I make sure that I get the front really, really light and then make sure that when it does split into two, that those pieces are light in between and it's not just really light on top. Balayage is a little scary because the lightener is so thick that it looks scary when it's packed on. But we need it to be this light color, this light white color, because that means it's just laying on top. As you can see, it didn't saturate all the way through. So when I move towards her apex, I just make sure that there's some depth there so that we have that variation. And if it looks too spotty or packed on, I will take my comb and brush it a little bit so that it could relieve some of the parts that I don't want and it will lay on the parts that I do want. Again, it is a lot of strategy, but it's also pretty easy in comparison to foil. We would be picking these pieces out, we're actually laying these pieces on. And if this was a real client, I wouldn't be having her pieces be hanging in her eyeballs like that. I would make sure that it's away from her face. We did take a 45-minute lunch break in between this time, so she was sitting for quite a while, but the front pieces only stayed on for about 20 minutes. And so let's see how she cooks. This is non-Deborah while she processes for 20 minutes. Non-Deborah, all washed out, raw bleach. She did have previous highlights, so she's a little lighter, and this is her styled. Beach Waves is the perfect style to top off this surface. Here's the side where we painted on more lightener, so she's more brighter underneath. And here's the side where she has more dimension. Balayage is one of my favorite techniques.
If you loved this video, please like, leave a comment of what I should do next, send this to your Cosmo bestie, and class is now dismissed.